Hello, guys. Welcome to another exciting episode on Pious Football, where I bring you the latest in transfer news. We discuss tactical analysis of games and also talk about pertinent issues around football that you don't hear on mainstream European media. Now, like I said in my previous episode, we actually going through an international break. A lot of the clubs are training with teams that consist of players who don't have any international duties. So presently, a lot of the stories that I'll be talking to you about are centered on a lot of happenings around football that has no direct impact on the game per se, but they also are really important for us to talk about. So my first story for today begins at the camp of Manchester United. You remember the case of Anthony and his ex-girlfriend, the issue of alleged domestic violence against him. The Brazilian police are investigating a case that has, confounded people in Brazil. Anthony has been axed from the Brazilian national team until further notice, whilst police are conducting investigation about alleged domestic violence by his ex-girlfriend, Luciano Galino. So presently, what is happening is that the club, Manchester United, has released a statement. They initially did not respond to allegations of domestic violence against the player. The player has actually also come out with a statement to condemn and refute the allegations made by his ex-girlfriend. I don't want to go into the details of that. I have said that I would wait to see what the investigations of the Sao Paulo police in Brazil come up with, and if the case is going to advance to court. Or my story about this is the fact that several UK-based domestic violence NGOs have condemned the action of Anthony, but for me, I think that a lot of it is premeditated. We have to wait for the Sao Paulo police to finish their investigations before we say anything about it. The ex-girlfriend in question, actually posted messages on her Instagram talking about how Anthony threatened to kill her, threatened to cut her fingers and stuff like that. So pretty violent picture being posted to us about what happened between her and her ex-boyfriend. But currently, the UK based NGO, centered on domestic violence, I think the name is Women's Aid. They have been the only agency that has so far come out with a very strong statement condemning what Anthony has done, and they are proposing this time that big clubs in the UK, especially Manchester United, will actually enact policies that will sort of help prevent players from how to deal with players who actually are accused of domestic violence. There has to be a sort of a principle or a laid down rules of engagement between the team and the players who have been accused of domestic violence. Mind you, Manchester United is already reeling with the effect of Mason Greenwood domestic violence saga. Mind you also that the legend Ryan Giggs of Manchester United was also accused of domestic violence by his girlfriend and actually lost his job as the coach or the manager of the Wales national team after several court hearings. The case was actually dismissed. So presently, that is what we have to deal with as a club. Manchester United, how to sort of conscientize players on dealing with domestic related violence in their homes. And also, I would like to talk about this interesting happening about Ronaldo's lie detector interview he had that he posted on his social media about 3 days ago, I think. I've seen a couple of comments about it. So the sort of Messi fans also trying to dispute the effect of the lie detector, or what it was all about. But for me, on Pious Football, I like to say that the way I see it, I think that Ronaldo currently is trying to deal with the effects of several accusations that are thrown at him, that he is selfish, he's self-centered, and that he wished that he had won the World Cup, and not Messi. But I think that for me, if you look at the questions that were asked during the interview, a series of very pertinent questions that are led by prejudice against him, and also to the flimsy ones, the not so serious questions like if he eats fast food or whether he actually Googles himself. But I think that if you look at the series of the questions, he was asked if he would exchange his 5 Champions League trophies for a World Cup trophy, and he said no, he wouldn't. And the lie detector said, yeah, he's telling the truth. I mean, if you look at why he needed to do that, for me, I don't think that it was necessary that he did all that. No, but I mean, if you want to answer to your critics, if you want to actually sort of try and put a lid on several opinions about you that are led by prejudice of from several Messi fans and journalists, I think that then it becomes important for you to do a lie detector test or something like that. For me, I think it's not necessary, but maybe he felt he needed to do it. The debate between who is better between the two players, Messi and Ronaldo, will continue to rage on. But for me, the way I see it, I think that each player has done enough to be thought of as one of the greats in the pinnacle of the game. I honestly, on Pious Football, I view Pele as the greatest of all time. But of course, if you look at the achievements of both Messi and Ronaldo, it is actually not out of the out of question to say that either of them could be the best, the greatest of all time. So for me, the lie detector test interview didn't do much, if anything at all. It's really sort of invigorated the Messi fans to kind of speak against him, talking about his fact that he's full of himself, that he didn't have to do a lie detector test. The Messi and Ronaldo fans are sort of cult fans. They rarely listen to reason. So for me, the way I see it, I think that it wasn't necessary to do a lie detector test or an interview or to prove anything. Ronaldo has achieved greatness on his own in football, and he doesn't need to sort of do anything to appeal to anyone who at this point in time doesn't respect the talent and the achievements he's had in world football. My next story, I want to talk about Jadon Sancho's issue with Erik ten Hag. You remember that after the game against Arsenal, when he was interviewed post-match analysis, he was asked about Jadon Sancho's absence in the team, and he said that the player is absent because he's not been training well. He's not been doing well in training, and that he only accepts top-level training, and that it is in training sessions that he selects his team for the weekend. So I mean, everyone was quite shocked by that. But the more interesting outcome of that interview is that right after he made that interview, he was on the team bus on his way back to Manchester when he was alerted by some of the technical team that Jadon Sancho has released a counter statement on Facebook to sort of denounce what his manager has said, saying that we shouldn't listen to the lies, and that he's trained very well, and that he believes that the reasons why he's kept out of the team are more it has to do with something outside of football, or that he believes it is a non-footballing reason why he's been left out of the team, and not for the fact that he's not been training well. Now, if you look at the response and the fact that it came through social media, first time that we're having such a close engagement with a manager on social media for everyone to see. Speaking, I've heard several views about the issue. One of them, I think Ben Foster, who is a Manchester United legend, if I can say he is a legend anyway, that he made a comment about it and said that if this had happened during Alex Ferguson's tenure, the player would never play for Manchester United again. And I agree, because whilst I don't think that Erik ten Hag should have said what he said in that interview, saying that Jadon Sancho wasn't training well and that is why he wasn't selected, I think that he should probably have managed the situation a bit in a more professional way. You cannot actually leave the player out to dry like that in front of the fans after losing such a painful game. So, I mean, it's like you're making Sancho a scapegoat or something. And he said that in the statement. But for the player side, I think that the player is also kind of shooting himself in the foot, because you cannot openly call your manager a liar on social media. He said, and he said this before when he was playing for Dortmund. He made a public statement on social media about the technical team at Dortmund, saying that he was being made a scapegoat. So this is not the first time he's done that. And for me, and what I think is that he's sort of shifting the blame, shifting responsibilities. He needs to take responsibility for himself. We bought him for 73 million pounds from Dortmund, Manchester United. And he's not really lived to the billing, and so he needs to improve. He needs to up his game. And so at this point in time, countering what your manager is saying on social media seems to be a very bad idea. And I think that what has happened, the blowback of what he released, is that Erik ten Hag is definitely not happy, and he is said to be disappointed with Jadon Sancho for his reply on social media. Remember that the manager actually backed him last season when he was going through a difficult spell. He even sent him to the Holland to train with a personal coach, whilst he defended him in the media, tried to cover him. But now it seems like the player is not really pulling his weight. He looks quite good. He looked quite good during preseason when he played as a false nine. But looking at how things are going now, it looks like Erik ten Hag is going to kind of freeze the player out. But there's supposed to be a one-on-one discussion between player and coach over the weekend. Mind you, Sancho was not selected by Gareth Southgate for the Three Lions engagement this weekend, so he will be available for training the whole 2 weeks break. And so I think it will give manager and player ample time to sort out their differences. If not, then I think that Sancho would probably have played his last game for Manchester United. Now, another big news that I want to discuss is the fact that the Saudis, the Saudi Pro League, the Saudi club Al Ittihad, are trying to bring another mega offer, to make another mega offer for Mohamed Salah. It is interesting that, like I said in one of my episodes, that the Saudi clubs are becoming bolder and bolder about signing players from the top leagues in Europe. They are going after the big names now. They've signed Neymar, they've signed Karim Benzema, quite names that you think would not be interested in going to Saudi Arabia at the point in their career. They are signing players who are much younger, less than 30 years old. The shocker for me was Gabriel Viega of Celta Vigo, a 19-year-old Spanish international with a bright future, now going to play in the Saudi league. It was a shock to everyone. So the Saudi Pro League, they believe in the the league that they are projecting, the quality of their league, and now they are going after the big names. And now Mohamed Salah, who is arguably the best right winger in the Premier League, and one of the overall best outfield strikers in Europe right now. They want him. They've offered 150 million pounds, which was turned down by Liverpool. Now it is believed that entourage of Al Ittihad are already in London, and they want to actually try and sign the player by offering another mega offer of around 200 million pounds for Mohamed Salah. Now, for me, my opinion on this whole thing is that it will be a disaster for Liverpool to actually sell Mohamed Salah. Mind you, they've already sold the Jordan Henderson and Fabinho. But those two players, one would argue that they are old. They are above 30 years old, and at the end of their careers, their footballing careers. So, it only makes sense that you let them go for big money offers. And that money have actually come in handy for them, because it has been reinvested in buying Szoboszlai, McAllister, and then Endo, okay, and then probably Gravenberg, who was signed on deadline day. But selling Mohamed Salah at this point doesn't make financial sense, number one, and doesn't make sporting sense, number two. Why am I saying it now? In terms of finances, look at the situation with Liverpool right now. They don't need the cash, okay? Liverpool are in a very strong financial situation. And also, now, if you sell Mohamed Salah now, sporting wise, you are endangering your chances of playing in the Champions League next season. And the Champions League, mind you, a new format is coming. And this new format promises more money. So it doesn't make any financial sense at this point to kind of sell Mohamed Salah to a Saudi club when you might actually be in danger of not being able to qualify for the Champions League. So for me, the way I see it, I think that Liverpool will be making a huge mistake selling Mohamed Salah right now. Also, if you look at the sporting aspect of it, if you sell Salah now, who is going to be the replacement? The transfer window is closed. You cannot replace him now. So, I mean, you are losing a player who is arguably going to give you about 20 Premier League goals without any replacement. And who says that you can get a Mohamed Salah replacement in Europe right now? You can't get a replacement for Salah. If you look at the player statistics in terms of fitness, now he's played 48 games consistently. He's played 48 games consistently since he signed for Liverpool. Every season, he gives you, 48 games in all competitions. He's very fit. He's about 30 years old, yes, but he's very fit. He plays the games in every game that you find Mohamed Salah. He's excelled. He's giving you 30 goals, at least 30 goals a season for the last 5 years. Okay, so that is the kind of person you will be losing if you sell Mohamed Salah right now. And my words are egged in the opinion of a Liverpool legend, Robbie Fowler, who the player is a legend, is a Liverpool legend, and that if there was ever a Mount Rushmore at Anfield, it was if there was ever a Mount Rushmore at Anfield, then it will probably have Mohamed Salah's face in there alongside Steven Gerrard, Kenny Dalglish, and Ian Rush. So for me, Salah is bigger at this point than anything else that Liverpool could afford, and it will be disaster for them to actually sell Mohamed Salah at this point in time. Also, I would like to talk about Manchester United are still saddled with Maguire and John Evans. What happened? Since Eric Ten Hag came, there has been the talk about buying new players who fit the philosophy of what Ten Hag wants to do, which we still don't know. But we know that he wants to buy ball-playing centre-backs. He likes to buy ball-playing, footballers. But, in the game against Arsenal, we saw that he brought on Harry Maguire and John Evans, players who were both at Leicester City and relegated Leicester City. Probably John Evans was there when they were relegated. Maguire came for a big money offer from Leicester in the summer of 2019. He had a very good first season, but since then, several injuries has, destroyed his form. He's lost confidence, and now he's a pale shadow of himself. And it shows that when he was coming on against Arsenal, the Arsenal fans were actually making very funny jokes about him coming on. And we were 1-1 when he came on. He and John Evans conceded 2 goals at the death. We lost 3-1 in that game. Manchester United. So how did we come to the point where we have actually gotten rid of a lot of dead wood at the club? About 20 players have left the club since Eric Ten Hag joined Manchester United as a manager. But we still brought on John Evans and Harry Maguire at the end of a game we were trying not to lose. How did we get here? So I think that we need to have Manchester United need to have a hard look about how they sell players, how they buy players. Also, I'd like to talk about the fact that Vinicius Jr. Just made a statement on social media. I think he posted it that he will be back very soon. He is expecting to be back sooner than planned. Okay, mind you, he got injured in the game against Celta Vigo. I think he was supposed to be out for 6 weeks, but now he's saying that he's targeting the game against Atletico Madrid as the time for him to return. My opinion about that is that I think that Vinicius should actually be very careful. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti should manage the player very well, because trying to force the player to come back, from injury, just to play against Atletico Madrid, might actually make it worse. It's going to affect Real Madrid if Vinicius, comes back too early and then re-injures himself and then goes back late than actually expected. So I think that a man management with Vinicius Junior will be very important, that they shouldn't rush him to return from injury. And also I'd like to talk about one important observation I made in the game against Arsenal over the weekend on Sunday. I think that the news came early on Saturday evening that by the Ghanaian FA, as they released their list for the game against Central African Republic, that Thomas Partey's name was absent. People asked questions, and the official statement from the GFA, the Ghana Football Association, was that the Arsenal medical team have informed them that Thomas Partey is injured and will be out for about a month. Now, the information that came from that actually led to Arsenal also coming out with the statement that Partey is injured and will be out for 6 weeks. Now that's what they said. They said 6 weeks. So it was quite interesting. I thought that was going to affect them in the game. Mind you, a year ago, we played Arsenal at Old Trafford. Partey was injured, and they replaced him with Lukonga. I think he was injured during the warm-up. So Lukonga, came in the starting lineup, and it turned out to be a disastrous decision, because they lost 3-1 in that game. They were exposed in their midfield completely. And then a year on from there, I mean, it showed consistently in the season, because anytime Partey went out injured, Arsenal suffered losses, okay, and it cost them the title. And if you look at the whole transfer strategy of Arsenal, they did everything to replace Thomas Partey, and it showed that the amount that they bid for Declan Rice, the extent that they went to try and get Declan Rice for around £105 million, okay, and Declan Rice came in as a sort of Partey replacement. So it's like an evolution from Partey. They are trying to move or evolve from the Partey and his injury crisis. Although the player is a world-class player, very dependable if he is playing, very good player in midfield, but he is consistently getting injured, very unreliable if you are trying to win the title. Mind you, the EPL is very demanding. A lot of speed and pace involved in the game, and so bringing in Declan Rice is actually a very good alternative for Partey, and it showed in the game against Arsenal. I said consistently whilst watching Arsenal games in preseason that trying to replace Partey is not going to be easy. They even tried to sell him at the end of the transfer window, getting to the tail end of the transfer window, but they didn't get any offers. Plus, they started thinking twice about losing Partey, because he's such an important player for the Gunners. So I mean, if you watch the game against Manchester United, that midfield of bringing in Odegaard, Declan Rice, and the guy from Chelsea, what's his name, Kai Havertz, okay, they brought in Kai Havertz, they brought in Declan Rice, and I've said in my assessing their preseason games that if Arteta plans to actually use those three players in midfield. So you have Kai Havertz operating in the 4-3-3 position in the three-man midfield. So you have Kai Havertz, you have Declan Rice, and you have Martin Odegaard. And I use that three midfielders in that game, and they excelled so well, they played so well. And so for me, I think that Arsenal had a strategic transfer window. They had a plan, they executed it, and it's bearing fruit for them. And I give Arteta kudos for that. I think that they have completely evolved from Thomas Partey, that they are not really worried right now if he's injured or not. And I give thumbs up to Arsenal and the recruitment team. West Ham actually signed Mohamed Kudus over the weekend. At the end of the transfer window, Mohamed Kudus joined West Ham. There were several EPL clubs interested, but West Ham paid the big money to get him. I want to talk about the fact that Kudus is ready for the Premier League. Anyone who doubts the qualities of Mohamed Kudus will be making a mistake. The player moved from Ghana, from the Right to Dream Academy straight to FC North Zealand, and then moved from North Zealand to Ajax. Mind you, North Zealand is owned by the Right to Dream Academy. It was bought for that purpose, to try and be that transition team for players moving from the African continent into mainstream Europe, to kind of give them that grounding, that education that will propel them to greatness. And then one of the things that I observed about the training sessions and the training philosophy, the playing philosophy of FC North Zealand, that sort of helped Kudus, become the player he is now. Is one thing that they call the accelerated learning. They call it accelerated learning. What it means is that they try to, sort of imbibe the players with a certain form of football, a very direct, a very distinct style of play that will actually help the players to actually eliminate a lot of possibilities in the game. Okay, if you are a player and you have so many options at your disposal during the game, you tend to be indecisive. Okay, and that indecision is actually what separates the great players from actually good players. The ability to make decisions at the right time in the right places. And so, I mean, this distinct style of play actually helps the players to actually be able to make clear decisions at important points in games, and that actually wins games. And so for me, I think that the strategy of FC North Zealand and Right to Dream Academy of invigorating all these Ghanaian players into FC North Zealand and then selling them to big teams in Europe is actually a good thing for Ghana and for the individual players involved. Mind you, after Mohamed Kudus, who was one of the first names on the project, there was actually Kamaldeen Sulemana, who also joined North Zealand and then moved to Rennes in the French league, and then finally made that move to Southampton. And then there's also another player who has just joined Olympic Lyon, and Esniama moved from Right to Dream to North Zealand, and then he's made the move to Olympic Lyon. So I think that overall, Mohamed Kudus, he has the physique, he has the pace, he has the technique to excel in the Premier League, and I believe that, given the chance, that Kudus would, explode in the EPL, and I think that the EPL fans will have a very great talent, on their hands. And I think that, like I said, when he made the move to West Ham, that it is going to be a stepping stone for him to make that big money move very soon in the near future. So let's watch out for Mohamed Kudus. Mind you, he will be in action tomorrow against Central African Republic when Ghana plays at home at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium. Also, I'd like to talk about another interesting story that I read over the weekend. It was about an expert in artificial intelligence who was making that a very it was quite an astonishing statement that he believes that in 30 years time there will be no human-centered refereeing in games. Okay, basically in Europe, he believes that in 30 years time, or 30 years from now, artificial intelligence will actually be officiating games. Now, as astonishing as that claim is, if you look at the situation with the current video assistant referee, which is a form of artificial intelligence, then it tells you that we are on our way to what this guy is actually saying. They are already AI is already influencing the game. Mind you, we have the goal line technology, which is a form of AI. Then we have the video assistant referee, which decided the game against Manchester United and Arsenal. A lot of controversies about that, which was the point of bringing in the VAR to avoid controversies. But it seems that every human institution is going to be affected by controversies, whether you like it or not. But going forward, I think that for me, and the guy did state that he doesn't see it as, it doesn't necessarily mean that the artificial intelligence replacing referees is actually a good thing. It doesn't have to be a positive, but that is where he sees the game going, okay, in terms of sports development. But for me, I think that looking at the situation carefully, the way I see it, I think that the linesmen are going to be the ones who are going to be at the end of the replacement. Okay, if there is going to be a replacement of officials in games is definitely going to be the linesmen, because their decisions on the lines are going to be very easy for the AI to interpret. Okay, so because it uses data, once the data is imputed, it's going to effectively interpret that data, and the linesman, the duties of a linesman is actually very sort of straight to the point and very easy for an AI to interpret. So it's going to be very easy to replace a linesman rather than replacing a center referee, because that is going to be very difficult. A center referee has to be able to read the mood of players, dishing out cards when players show insubordination on the pitch. Is going to be very difficult for an AI to interpret, how to interpret human emotions. Okay, once human emotions are involved, the AI is going to have a lot of difficulty interpreting some of these things. So for me, the way I see it, if we want to bring in sports, artificial intelligence in sports, I think the way to go is actually in helping managers plan for games. Okay, an AI, can use what we call the predictive analytics to try and sort of prepare the managers' planning in terms of games, which players are well conditioned to start a game, which players can play, how many minutes can they play, when to actually remove a player from a game, and actually also sort of analyze teams that you are going to play, the opponents, which team are you likely to lose, how to prepare for teams, certain games. So for me, that is where I think that AI can actually help in game management and in sports development in football, and not necessarily placing an AI at the center of a game. That for me is going to be a negative. But for the positive use of AI in football, I think that we can use it in management, in helping managers prepare players and teams for games. And then my last story for today will be the news coming in that Manchester United women's team have signed a new player from Japan. She was the top scorer of the just ended Women's World Cup. She scored 5 goals as a midfielder. Her name is, I think, Hanita Miyazawa. Hanita Miyazawa from Urawa Red Dragons from Japan. She's actually quite impressive. I think she scored 5 goals in 4 games that she played. And she is the only non-European who actually got on the awards of that tournament. So I think that it's quite a good replacement. I mean, the team lost a very important player to Barcelona over the weekend. So I mean, but the transfer window is still open for the women's football. So I mean, they are still signing players. So I hope that Manchester United women's team will actually try and sign in some very good quality players to try and wrestle the Premier League from Chelsea, who are kind of the dominant team in Europe, in England right now. Mind you, Barcelona women's team are actually the champions, the best team on the continent last year. So let's see if Manchester United women's team can actually close the gap on Chelsea in the Premier League. Thank you very much for staying with me. Remember, this is Pius Football. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and like the videos. I want to see your comments at the comment section. Let us discuss the stories and see if we can agree or disagree on 1 or 2 issues, and then we'll see the way forward. Thank you very much for staying with me. Bye.